Django is very easy framework. So far we have seen REST APIs, right? How to build, how the REST APIs work. What are the different types of verbs and methods? Get, post, put, delete. All these methods we have seen. But in practice, how these things are used, we have already seen that somewhat in our first project. We were using Express to build these backend APIs. Django has powerful API capabilities, as well as easy to use framework capabilities also. First, we will first dig into the basics of Django and then go in depth into how to customize these REST APIs in Django. So Django has a framework called REST framework, Django REST framework, so which will allow us to uh, add more advanced REST APIs. So on an overall, this Django will allow us to create easy to use interfaces with just simple code itself without manipulating the get request or post request. We'll first look into how to build a simple application and then go in depth into how the REST APIs can be implemented and more advanced features can be developed within that application. So right now, let's go start using this repo. It's just one placeholder I'm using. So first, let's create a new project. This is a folder I have created, but let's open the terminal and let me create a new Django project. Before going into Django, let's create a virtual environment for this project so that it won't corrupt my system Python installation. So I will just use Python and some env, and I can give any folder name, my Django env, and use. It will initialize all Python in a virtual environment called this folder, inside this folder. So if I do see here, it created a folder. This folder has all this Python installations, but I want to add one ignore file here so that it won't commit uh, into this folder. I don't need to commit into the repo folders. It's only temporary folder that I'll use for storing my packages and everything. So for that, I will just add my Django. Yeah. So if I add this folder in git ignore, if I do git status, it won't show up. By default, it has added git ignore here. Okay, I don't need to add the git ignore then. So what I'm trying to do here is this folder I wasn't trying to, I shouldn't push into the git repository. So what this folder already has is .git ignore that ignores all the files within this folder. So as this guy has git ignore, I don't need to add this folder in this place. We'll go in depth into git at a later point. So I don't need to add that for me. So now let's go activate this environment for me. I will just go into /cd my to a list scripts. Inside the scripts, I have one activate.ps. So I need to activate this /activate.ps. So now this environment got activated. So whatever packages I install, it will only affect this particular environment, not my global installation of Python. So now let me go install Django. Install Django. This is required for creating a Django project. Okay, now Django is installed. I do a list. Okay, Django is there. Now there is a command called Django admin. Once I install Django package, I will have Django admin command. This is the command that gets installed automatically. Let me try Django admin. So there is a lot of commands that Django admin has. So one of them is create project or start project. Start project. So whenever I want to create a new project, I will have to use start project. It's like npm init we do, right? In the Node.js projects, we will do similar thing in Django admin. So I will just use Django admin start project my first project. My project, I'll just use my project. So what it has done is it has created a folder, my project. Inside that, there are certain files it created. So manage.py is the interface through which we can add new routes, new pages, new models, and new migrations. All the control structures will be in the manage.py file. We don't have to edit anything in the manage.py. Manage.py is only for the administrative purposes, and more advanced settings also will happen in manage.py. So what we are concerned about is my project inside the my project. So basically, when I created start project and issue start project, it created a parent folder, my project, and it has manage.py in it. And this is for administering this project. And inside the my project, there is another folder called my project. This is the global settings of all the project project configurations. Most of the times, we won't be touching this at the project level. We'll be creating smaller applications inside this my project. So let's go into this settings.py and see what it has. So it has installed applications. This is one of the important aspects of a Django project. By default, it gives an admin interface and an authentication capabilities for this application. So this is settings, and this is URLs. URLs has all the patterns or routes that we can access. So for now, we will just stick with that and we'll create a new application. All Django offers is a set of disconnected applications, and they all can be connected to this management interface in this settings. Whenever I have a new application created, so Django allows us to have like segregated way of building applications. One single Django project can have like 10 or 20 applications in it, and each of them will have its own life cycle. So all those applications we can add it here, add in this installed apps. So for now, let's go and create a project application called Django admin. I'll just do a help. So start app, start project we have used, and start app is the next logical step for us. Start app home. What you get Yes, it created a home application, home folder here, and all the configuration files here. So the important part in here is the admin models views. So models will specify what all database tables are we going to use, and views specifies what routes will be rendering in the into the UI. So to give you an example, before we even go into in depth into home application, we'll first start the Django server and see if this thing is working or not. So to start the Django server, we'll have to do Python manage.py run server. Open file. Okay, 1 second. I should actually go into my project. CD my project. Python manage.py run server. So there is a warning that says that you have pending migrations, unapplied migrations. We'll go into this migrations later. Right now, it has started the server, and let me go access this URL. If you see this, this is what we are accessing through 8000 port. This is the default homepage of Django. If you want to refer to Django documentation, you can go to this and go through this documentation and get all the functions and models, everything, all helper functions and everything. Yeah. So the server is now running. Let's go modify the code. Now I have home page, the home application. What we are now interested in is I want to add this application as part of the global settings. Whenever I want this any new app that I create to come under the project, I need to add it into the settings. So we have installed apps here, and we need to add that new applications that we create into this installed apps, so that we will have routes configured, and this also will be coming in the application overall. When we run the server, it will include these applications also into the server. So I've added the home application. Now let's go create a page or a view that we can render. So there are certain shortcuts. We will go in depth into how these things work. So basically, for us to display a page, we will have to add views here. Let me go add home view here. So views are all functions or classes. So I'm going to use functions for now. Later we will go into classes, how to use classes for displaying views. So I also need one more utility function from Django for rendering the pages. So I'm trying to build a home page here. So whenever I access /home path in the server, it should go into this home page view. That's what I'm trying to achieve here. So we need one utility function, HTTP response function. So here in home page view, I'm going to return HTTP response of hello world. So whenever I access the home page, it should give me hello world as a text response. So Before we can do this, we need to add this to the routes. So Django doesn't know that whenever home page is requested, it should go to home. How do I define that? Is through URLs. So inside the my project, there is something called URLs.py. This has the URL mappings here. So whenever I access admin URL, it's going to go into admin URLs. But I'm going to add one more URL here. Whenever I access slash or home, I'll just use home there. I want to display this view, this function. But how do I import this? I need to import this into this URLs. For that, I would need to do from home. Home is a package. If you see here, this is the home package. From folders or packages in Python. From home, import views. So this file I am trying to import into this file. So what I am going to do now, we have a function called home in here that should be called whenever I access the home URL. So for that, I will need to specify use.home. Now, when I access home in the browser, it should directly go to this function and it should give me hello world. Let's see that in practice. Let's go Python manage.py run server. I think there is no module named home. Okay. So let me go out one folder. Just a second. We should actually create this application inside my project folder. Let me go delete the home folder. Remove this also. Okay. Again, create inside this folder. I've created project. I need to first go inside that project. And then here I can create an app on whatever I want. Django admin, start app. It's created a home application inside this project. So that's how it works. Now inside the home, I'm going to add a view. Before that, I need to add HTTP import, HTTP response, and create a view called home. This will accept a parameter called request. So we'll go in depth into how that request is used. I'll just return HTTP response. Hello world. Before we can do anything, we should verify that my project has this app added to the project. This app home is added now to the project. Now views inside the URLs, I will have to import that from home, import views, and for which path I want to access that, I need to specify home slash. When I access home URL, to render home function from here. I could put a comma here. Use. Now let me run the application. Manage run server. Now I will access the web application. If I go reload this page, it shows an error. So this is because we have added a specific route. If we don't have a route, by default, Django will redirect us to the home page that we have seen earlier. Now we have two routes added to the application. So one is home route and one is admin route. We'll go into admin route later. For now, we'll just try to access home route. So if I go to /home, my hello world is response is coming. That's about how to add a simple view to the application. So next thing is how the Django works overall. Django has a model view template architecture, which means any application, any view that we create will have to go through views, models, and templates. There is something called templates that I'll go in depth into later, some in a few minutes. So whenever I want to access a UI, user interface, now I am returning the response as text here. So for me to actually render an HTML page, I need to have templates in it. So for creating templates, let me go create a new folder called templates. How to render templates, I will display. I'll show you now. If I want to access a template, I'll create a templates folder in this home application template, and then I will create one more folder called home. This is a convention in Django to have folder names same as app names. So if I want to show one welcome HTML on homepage visit, I can go create a welcome.html page. Django uses a specialized language called Django template language. Before we go into that, we can actually put any plain HTML here. It's one this welcome page from home app. And just use header as task manager or something. Header and body I'll use. Title, my project. I will put it inside the body tag. So how do I render this welcome.html from this view? Instead of sending plain text, I want to use this welcome.html page. For that, I need to import this render. Render is a utility function for rendering the application templates. So instead of using this, I'll just return render of request. I need to pass request also as part of the render. And also I need to specify what template I want to use for rendering. So which is home/welcome.html. And it also accepts a set of parameters. For now, I'm just going to give empty dictionary to the parameters list. And let's run the server and see if this HTML gets displayed. I will change my screen. Let me go refresh this application. And this is coming from the template. If you go inspect this, my all HTML template is coming. Yes. For example, if I want to display some dynamic content from the HTML template, I can do it. How do I do that? Is so when I go here, this empty parameters, instead of empty parameters, I'll just use something like a a dictionary item called today. Today's date I want to display. So for that, I need to import a library called datetime from Python. Import datetime from datetime. Import datetime. I'll just use datetime dot today. It's a function. So I'm passing today as a parameter to this template. So inside this template, I can use this today parameter. How do I use that? Yes, this today is for me to use those templates, I need to use two brackets. Inside these two brackets, I can use those variables that I'm passing through this views parameters. So now the server is already running. Let me go refresh the page and see the date is coming. So this is how dynamically the parameters can be passed from the templates views to templates. Now for every URL that we are adding, we are actually editing the my project global project. So like home, we will have multiple applications. Those applications we can actually remove randomly and add randomly. So if for example, if you are distributing a software which has like 10 modules or 10 sub applications, we can have 10 applications like phone, notes, task manager, and all such applications in one single project. And if even if we remove home application, the entire project should not break. So, but we are creating a dependency here. There is a better way to handle this approach. If you are using home home application inside the my project global settings, that will be a problem with the dependency. If I delete home application, this will also get broken. For us to handle that gracefully, handling deletes of applications, we need to have a better way of handling this views. So right now what we will go do is we will move this URL patterns to this application itself. This application also can have a file called URLs. Just like global project we have, in my project we have URLs. Similarly, this also home application also can have URLs. So what we'll do is we'll move these URLs into this applications URLs and import this entire application URLs into this. So how do I do that? So I created a URLs file here, and same as URLs.py, I'll just use import Django URLs path also and put it over here. And similarly, URL patterns also I will need. So this one, I just need only this part. Even if I'm pasting here, I don't need this part. I need only this part. So views, I need to import from the current package. So how do I do it from the current package? From dot import views. So this actually means from the current folder, URLs also is in the current folder, home folder only. From the current folder, import views file, this file into these URLs. So now if I delete this setting should not affect, or this URL should not break. So for us to not use it directly, we have another way to include. So from Django URLs, import path, and there is one more function called include. So instead of using directly these paths, I've just moved these paths into URLs of home. I'm just going to use this URLs, this entire application inside the parent path. Inside URLs, here I can import all of these URLs at once with the include flag. Let me do that. So for the path, I'm going to use home, or I'll just use empty. So any, if not admin, any path will directly go to home views, home dot URLs. What this specifies is whenever somebody accesses a path that is not admin, that has anything, this means actually this any URL has to be mapped into home.urls for file. So home is here, URLs is here. If I access any path, home or whatever, if it is found in this path patterns, then it will go into that respective view. So now, even if we delete home application now, this will not break. So what this does is, if the application is found, it will include that. If not, it won't. So if we are directly importing home in this from home, if I do it like this, import views, that will be a closed dependency. So if I delete this package, this will break. Now this doesn't break. So similarly, now if I go and stop the server and restart it, so application did not change. Let me go refresh and see if the anything is changed. If I go refresh, nothing is broken. Just the approach we have changed from tightly coupling the application to the project. We are decoupling application and the project. Now we no longer need this home application for this project to work. But if it is there, it will get added as a plug and play functionality. So similarly, let's go have one more application created. But before doing that, I want to show you this admin interface. So there is something called migrations in this. If you see the warnings here, we have 18 unapplied migrations. So for us to have access to some pages, authorized pages, we need to have user authentication. So Django has an inbuilt user authentication mechanism for admin. Let me demonstrate how that works. But before doing that, we will have to have migrations. So what are migrations? Basically, so for this application to work, there are certain uh, database tables that are required. So what Django provides is a easy to use ORM capabilities. ORM means object relational mapper. So as long as we know what objects we will be using, this models folder will have the objects, set of objects. As long as we know what objects we'll be using and what fields they will be having, we don't have to create database tables ourselves. This is a functionality of ORM. Once we define the objects, it will automatically create the tables and populate the data for us. We'll go in depth into how these migrations work. Once I demonstrate how these migrations work, then I can go in depth into it. So for this warning to go away, I need to do one thing. Python manage.py migrate. So right now, this application is configured to use a database called SQLite database. I will go in depth into SQLite in a little bit of time. For now, just let's go with migrations. So these migrations command did one thing. It has created the tables, admin, auth, content types, sessions. These are the different tables that we needed. These are database operations that had to be performed in order for this application to work. So why we did this migrations, and I'll explain you in a bit. For us to have authentication also in place, we will need one more thing called a user created in the database. What we did is we created a users table, an admin table and auth tables we have created. So we also need a user for doing the operations on this application to access an admin interface. Let's go before we migrate this. Let's go run the server and see what I mean by admin interface. If I go to my application, if I go instead of home, I'll just remove that, go to slash. There are two routes here, admin and home. Home we have seen, admin we have to see. I'll go to slash admin. Django comes by default with an admin interface. This is what the admin interface is. So, but admin interface requires us to log into the platform. By default, it won't create a user for us. For creating the user and saving it in the database, we had to run the migrations that we have run right now. So the migrations will run only create the database. It doesn't create a user for us. For us to log into this admin interface, we also need to create a user. For creating that user, I'm going to use Django admin command again. Python manage API, create super user. This is the admin user that I'm trying to create within the database. So this will create a user and gives me, I'll use the username as admin and email as admin@admin.com. One second. Password also I'll use admin for now. I'll need to confirm the password. So there are some restrictions on the password length and visibility and such details. I'm just going to ignore that for now. In production, we will have to be careful on creating a password that is easy to guess. Bypass validation. I will bypass the validation. Now it has created a super user. So now I've created a username admin and password admin. So let me run the server and go to the admin interface. I'll refresh and I'll use admin as the username and admin as the password. I'll log in. As you can see here, there are two entities called users and groups. So this is by default will come from the Django application itself. Django project, whenever we initialize, this admin interface is by default will have this along with the Django installation. So we had one username. We can also add one more user. Second user, password based authentication enabled, password as something or some random password I'm using. Save. And it has saved the user. This the second user was added successfully. Let's go back home. And if I go to users, it will show two users here. So if you have more entities, all those entities will come here. So how to add those entities into the admin interface, we will see later. So this is actually a convenient way to have a direct interface for adding database entities. Without having to build a UI, we can actually make use of this admin interface. This is just a convenient way to add database tables. That's what it gives. If we have to have more advanced user interfaces, we will have to write it through templates. And this is by default comes with Django for us to do database operations without having to use database directly. So going forward, next we will see now we will create an authenticated application. Now we have so far all the pages that we have. This home page is a public page, right? So what if we want to have authenticated pages? Let me go to admin page and log out. I've just logged out now. I go to home page. Home page is not an authenticated page. Anybody can go to the home page. So we want to create a new page with authentication enabled. So let's go to that. One second. Let's go create a new view. Inside the views, I will have one more view called authorized. And I will just return render request. I'll use a template called authorized.html and I'll just pass an empty. But this authorized.html, I will need to create the templates. Just add one HTML. Restricted area. But still, I still need to add authentication mechanism before I can render this application. If I go to views, authorized, for us to have authentication, it's very simple to in Django. What I need to do is I need to import from Django auth decorators import login required. I can use this login required as a decorator. Decorators I will explain in a bit. So if I add this login required, it will just ask us to log in before accessing this page. Let's see what this shows when I run the server. I will go to authorized, but I haven't added authorized path in the URLs. I need to add that also. Let me go to that. I go to URLs. I need to add one more line called authorized. Use authorized. So whenever I call this, it has to render view authorized. Let's refresh. So authorized is coming, but it says 404, not found, because we are not logged into the platform. So let's say if it is not authorized, let's say I want to redirect it to login page. So I can do it with one simple change here in the code. Instead of having this also accepts a field called login URL. Login URL is /admin. Now, if I use the same path whenever it is logged out, it will redirect me to admin page so that I can log in. Now let's go refresh this page. Give me 1 second. Accounts, sorry, not this, /authorized. If I do go to authorized page, it's automatically redirecting me to this page. As a second user, I'm logging in, or I'll just use it as admin. Login. Then I will go to authorized. Now I've logged in. So authorized will show us the actual page. This is how easy to add the authentication mechanism to Django applications. So next thing would be like creating models and creating database tables ourselves and such details.